For all your photo, video, and voiceover needs, check out the fine folks at Blueberry Productions. They will take good care of you. If you don't believe me, you can see for yourself. Check out their work at blueberryproductions.tv, the Facebook page, Blueberry Productions, also a Vimeo page, a YouTube page, and it's Blueberry, BLUBERRY, Prod on Twitter. Check them out today. Blueberry Productions, great people, great work, great service.
Hey there, your yard took a real beating this summer. Luckily, Scott's Turf Builder Winter Guard has your back. Just feed your grass with Scott's again this fall when the air is cool and the soil is warm. It's the perfect time to give your lawn a boost. If you do, Winter Guard will give your yard the nourishment it needs to help weak, thin grass recover and support root growth, giving you a greener, more resilient lawn both now and next spring. Guaranteed. Grab a bag of Scott's Turf Builder Winter Guard today. You'll be back to barbecuing in no time. This is a Scott's Yard.
Hey parents, we all try to be extra careful with our children in the car, but then we get an important call or text. Remember, our children are watching. Make every drive a good example. Be in the zone. Turn off your phone. Visit childrenshospital.vanderbilt.org/BITZ to learn more about our Teen Driver Safety Program. Brought to you by Monroe Carroll Jr. Children's Hospital at Vanderbilt, the Ford Motor Company Fund, and the Allstate Foundation.
Hello, my name is Travis Williams, President and CEO of Academics and Athletic Consulting, focusing on educating and empowering tomorrow's collegiate athletic leaders. My passion is for the education and genuine concern and care for today's student athlete. It's the centerpiece of my life's work. A college education, both in and out of the classroom, is a truly rewarding benefit. For more information on AAC, you can go to www.academicsandathleticsconsulting.com. Once again, www.academicsandathleticsconsulting.com. Or you can follow me on Facebook at Academics and Athletic Consulting, or Twitter at Coach TWill24, or Instagram Travis L. Williams 24. Or you can call me at 404-542-6079. Once again, AAC is very proud to partner with J.R. McHenry of the Bossman Radio Show, covering sports and entertainment across the country. Please tune in weekly for informative, entertaining, and expert analysis on today's sports and entertainment topics. Thank you.
Here on the JR the Bossman show, here with former Kennesaw State head coach Lewis Preston, and he's an agent. Coach Preston, how's life up there for you guys, man, up there, up North Cobb way, man?
Life up here is good. Can't complain right now. As we talked about earlier, you got all the stuff going on in the NBA in light of everything today. So just kind of just taking it all in and seeing how we can get better as a society right now.
Most definitely, Coach Preston. I want to really talk about your journey because you was coaching at Kennesaw State and then you transitioned into the private world outside of coaching, and now you're an agent. So talk about that journey from how one journey stopped when coaching Kennesaw State to where you're at today, Coach. I think it's a great transition going from the floor to being an agent, and like how have you done it? So let's talk to the listeners about that, Coach, if you don't mind.
The first thing in regards to that, JB, was, I coached for 17 years, had a great coaching career, very fortunate to work with, I think when it's all said and done, 2 Hall of Fame coaches, and Mike Bray, worked with him for 6 years at Notre Dame, worked with Billy Donovan, was fortunate enough to be a part of that second national championship squad at Florida. And then, from Notre Dame to Florida, then to Penn State. But before all that, I got started at Coastal Carolina with Pete Strickland, who was also my college college, assistant coach. So having a chance to have that type of a career, then becoming a head coach at Kennesaw State, not working out the way that I wanted it for 3 years. And then I actually stepped away from the game completely for about 2 or 3 years, went out into corporate America. And now I work with the BDS agency with Brian Stanchak on the men's side. I've been doing that now for about 2.5 years, representing college coaches. The main reason why I decided to do that was to help coaches not make the same mistakes that I made and kind of be that 30,000 foot view, overall objective view, have an experience in coaching, and then making sure that they're doing everything that they need to do to be the best coaches they can be, not only on and off the court, but also within the community and within society.
Most definitely, Coach, because having somebody who's been in those shoes to be able to represent them, we're dealing with ADs, booster clubs, all the people that deal with to get a contract done. I'm telling you, having somebody who's been in that fray and knows is very crucial, Coach. And I think that's a great thing. And because I know a lot of coaches in the business, of course, as you know, and knowing somehow how the deals come around, how they're structured, and they can get tricky. And they try to run game on these guys, but having a guy like you who knows the game to represent them, they can save them some mistakes and sign some bad deals and get them messed up down the road, or have their contracts terminated before they want to. So that's great how you can be there to represent those guys out there, Coach.
Yeah, I think one of the main things right now is like everybody's trying to figure out this whole COVID piece, and you're starting to see this with contract extensions and things of that nature, how to try to navigate that. So, I think during these times, especially when there's some financial uncertainty, especially at the collegiate level, how to navigate those murky waters, but also at the same time, making sure that you don't ruin a long-term relationship, and knowing that, once again, as my mom and dad would always say, tough times don't last, tough people do.
Yes,
so
yes,
this is one of those tough times. We got to figure out how to get through it.
Most definitely. And, I noticed this carousel this time around was very light, and I was happy with that because, a lot of guys didn't lose their jobs. Because the carousel is usually about between 50 and 60 jobs they open up on a given year. In college basketball this year, maybe like 25, 26, 27, which I'm happy for. So I feel like COVID gave some guys an opportunity because this, as I do, Coach, that sometimes ADs and presidents get very impatient. You give a guy a total rebuild job, you only give him 2 years, 3 years to get it done, and he needs to build his own program, correct errors from the last staff, and build it up. And year 3, you haven't won what much you want to win, they firing that guy. So, when you're trying to structure a deal, I'm assuming you try to get some protection to allow a guy to actually to build his program out the right way, not rush him 2 or 3 years, he's out of there. And we're doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, I think one of the main things in regards to that is if you're starting to really pay attention to collegiate athletics, a lot of times you're not able to go through a cycle of recruiting within that 4-year span before there's changes made. If you're successful, most of the time you're able to move up in the coaching ranks to get a power 7, hopefully a Power 5 job. If not, if you're on the other side of it and you're being terminated, it's making sure that you do what's best to not only protect yourself in the short term, but also the long term. I think for us, one of the things we've been fortunate is having a young man that I think is going to be a star in the coaching business, a young man, Marlon Sears, who actually just this past offseason, he's the new head coach at Amherst up in the Northeast, up outside of Boston. And I think one of the things that's amazing about that is building those relationships, but also at the same time, you got to control your controllables the best way you know how. And I think what COVID's done, hopefully, to a lot of coaches is to get reconnected, not only with their teams and with their staffs, but also getting reconnected with their families as well, because I think that's very important. as you continue to navigate through these times, because as we've seen today, you've got certain things going on right now that I think these are going to have longer term effects as opposed to short term effects.
Yes, indeed, Coach. And like you kind of alluded to with the Milwaukee Bucks and the Orlando Magic boycott today's game, and now the Thunder and the Rockets are not going to play, and we'll see what the Lakers and the Blazers are going to do. But it's time, Coach. You know, like I've pretty much used my show since June, Coach, for the greater good of our people, because I'm 33 years old, so I understand, you know, what can happen to a young man in college, to somebody older than me, because, you know, I live in it. You know, my parents grew up in the civil rights era. My parents are 69 and 79 years old. So my parents lived it. No, I'm the first one in my family to be born for rights first. It was the Voting Rights Act, Fair Housing Act, civil rights. I'm the first one to be born, and that's 87. My parents weren't born with full rights when they was born. So it's a new day, Coach, and I feel like I've used my show for good to help affect the Atlanta community and beyond via the World Wide Web and the podcast world and the digital world, because the message is clear. It's time for a change, Coach.
Right, and if you've paid attention, I do not think there's been an NBA coach who's been as involved as Lloyd Pierce from the Hawks. In regards to social injustice and social change and being involved in the Atlanta community during the protests. I think one of the things about the NBA that they do a great job of is that they have come together collectively and voiced their opinion and continued to put it out in the forefront, because I think right now there is there's a lot of people behind the scenes that want to try to get back to some semblance of normalcy and to try to create some distractions to get away from what the message is. And I just going to continue to go back and say this: we got to keep making the main thing the main thing. And the social injustice that's going on, just watching everything just in our country right now is something that's eye-opening to me, being the father of two daughters, you know, living in Northwest Georgia, live in a great community. I'm not going to take anything away from the Cobb County community. I think it's one of the best communities in the state to live in. But also at the same time, you know, you're 33, I'm 49. And, you know, you just don't know on certain things what could happen. So we got to make sure that we are aware of that, and we continue to educate. Here's the 4 words I keep talking about all the time through this, and we talk to our clients about this as well. You've got to communicate, you have to educate, you have to empower, right? And then once you empower, you have to go out and continue to have empathy and compassion as we continue to learn, to grow, and continue to be a part of the change that we want to see in this world.
And Coach, you know, I had never felt this way like I feel after George Floyd, Coach. And I decided, hey, I have a show with a platform that ranges deep. I need to use my voice for good. And, you know, Coach, I'll be honest with you. Now, I'm just going to say it on the air here. I've lost 4 sponsors. I've been talking about social issues, racial issues. I lost 4 sponsors. I don't care about it because I'm doing this for the good. That shows me about them and where they stand. So long as I'm about the Atlanta Hawks, the Atlanta Braves, and the Falcons, is all good. Let's talk about me as a black man. It's a problem. So that shows me where they stand. So, Coach, I feel like, you know, I've lived it. I've had to be on Medicaid. I've had to be on food stamps. I've had to not have access to health care. All these issues that are in the forefront, I've lived them. So I'm going to speak on them. And, you know, it's about, Coach, to my mind, right v. wrong. It's not right versus left. It's right versus wrong. You want to be on the right side of history, wrong side of history. Are you for the people or are you not? So that's where I'm with it, Coach. I feel like it's time for us to be real about it. If we want equality in America, we gotta be about it with our actions, not just our words, or just thoughts and prayers, and move on with our day.
Right. And JB, as you talk about that, even from a deeper perspective, at the end of the day, we're both black men. And if you've looked at the statistics, it hasn't been very favorable, but we're also in a day and age and era to where social media is probably at its all-time high.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, there's a variety of different platforms. I mean, you see what's going on with the NBA, with the equality shirts, with the different things they're doing in the bubble. I think what Chris Paul is doing with the different HBCU shoes that he's wearing every game, how players have shown a united front in their post-game interviews, coaches in their post-game interviews, talking about the different things that's going on in America. We have to get to the point where we have to have the uncomfortable conversations.
Yes.
And I will go back and say this. I'm willing to be reasonable as opposed to rational with this. And what I mean by that is when you have rational thinking, you try to find people that follow or believe in what you believe and you go off in your group. When you talk about reasonable, you're willing to be wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
But willing to be wrong, knowing what you believe in. But once again, it comes to having the uncomfortable conversation. If you want to try to run away from this situation, it's going to eventually catch up to you. And I don't care if you are a Power 5 athletic director. I don't care if you are a Power 5, Power 7 college president or senior administrator. I don't care if you are a coach, assistant coach, support staff, players. You have to have these conversations. And we're seeing something right now that is so unprecedented that, and I'm talking about with COVID and then with everything else going on, it's almost like a perfect storm of events.
Most
to where
definitely.
you have to talk, all right? Because if you do not communicate now, once again, I'll say it and I'll say it 1,000 times, it's going to come back to haunt you later on. Because here's what I tell my coaches. How in the world can I, as a coach, during this time, not have these conversations with you, but then at a very critical point, I'll blow the whistle and I'm going to say I demand 100% of you. How can I demand 100% of you on and off the court when I didn't give you 100% of me?
Most definitely.
When you needed certain questions answered. That right there, and I don't even coach anymore, and I've laid awake at night about that. Because once again, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a brother, I'm an uncle, a cousin, So, I mean, how can you do that? This is something that's, in my mind, is very hard to compartmentalize. I think you have to meet this head on and be willing, once again, and I'm going to say it again, now I'll say it until, I go hoarse. You have to have the uncomfortable conversations.
You got that right, Coach. And, that's what I've been trying to stress to my white friends. Like, look, it's time to talk about this. You can't run from it no more. You can't hide behind, the Bible or God. This is right and wrong now. If you're about that, I'm pretty sure Jesus will be on the side of the protesters. If you're really about that, right? If you're about that life, you tell me you are. You can't hide behind policies, how I was raised. It's right and wrong. It's time to evolve. I'm just gonna say it. Conservative means to keep the same, to conserve, to preserve what it used to be. It's where it's time to progress, not regress. Coach, said it on my show, and I've offended some of my listeners by saying it, but it's just, Coach, I'm at a point, man. I'm doing this for my father, my mother, who are of age now, aged out and can't talk anymore. But I have a platform. As their son who two parents who grew up, who was alive when Martin Luther King got assassinated, and told me how it was. Now he got killed in Memphis in '68. They both told me how it was. So I have stories for days from my parents who grew up in this area, who can talk to me about how it was. So I feel, Coach, like I've been called now. I've a calling to use my sports platform and what's been given to me by the grace of God and my talents, but for a different cause. Now, still doing what I do for a living, Coach, which is cover sports, but also giving people the life and the real, and how it really is being a black man in America, and how we make this change today and get uncomfortable to make systemic change happen.
Right. And I will go back and I will say this as well. I think these are emotional times. Okay. We have to be strategic with the emotion versus logic. And what I mean by that is we all can logically say George Floyd was murdered. I've yet to see a person say that he was not murdered, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do we move on from that and not move on to forget about it, but to move on to make sure it doesn't happen again? Now, I have former buddies that I played basketball with that are police officers, right? And in talking to them, they give me a much different perspective, right? But they also give me the perspective of being a black man who's also a police officer. So those things I do take into consideration. And that's the reason why, as I'm speaking right now, once you take the emotion out and you just think logically about this, and I take, this to me is not about politics. This is just about right and wrong.
Most
right?
definitely.
And what we're trying to do is teach, the next generation, the Gen Z generation behind us, right from wrong. And that we've seen a lot of wrong that's happened. We've seen a lot of right that's happened during this time too. Because I think with times like this, there's great opportunity, right, to make sure that we don't have history repeat itself. And I think we're living through a form of history that's repeating, and hopefully it doesn't happen like this again in either one of our lifetimes.
Yes, indeed, Coach. I can say when I see my little cousins who are 5, 4, and 2 years old, they so innocent and just don't understand what the world they're in. I say, I wish I had their innocent minds. Where it's like I don't sleep well sometimes thinking about, how can I protect them? How can I make sure they're okay? Because there are 3 young little black boys who are growing up in Starbridge, Georgia, not really knowing at their age what's going on around them. But I see it every day. I try to also tell my cousin, you have to talk to him about this. You can't run from him. He doesn't want to, he's scared to kind of think about it because those are his 3 boys, but you have to prepare yourself as a parent and eventually prepare them for that talk you have to give them that, so they can be ready for it. I'm trying to prepare his mind right now, Coach, because it's very key. We like you live in up North Cal. I live in North Henry County here. So we are in great parts of town, great communities. But reality is if we go a little bit farther out, it's just Georgia. It's just the real Georgia, So we have to be prepared for that as well. So I try to tell my cousin, we have to always have our stuff out on the dashboard there. Don't make any sudden movements. Carry yourself a certain way. So we can always, hey, don't be a threat. Don't present yourself as a threat. Because even if you're not a threat, you can also get killed sometimes. But try to listen all things you can where it can go sideways. And don't try to win a traffic stop in the streets. That'll never happen. You got to beat them in court if you make it to court. So let's try to teach my cousins and teach my listeners these concepts, Coach. I'm trying to get us to be protected down the road and save us from a bad outcome if we possibly can.
And I think with that also we have to. I keep going back to the word educate, and we have to empower. And I think there has to be a level of empathy and compassion in regards to all of this. Mm-hmm. I think I go back and I think about this all the time. As much as possible, I try to take the emotion out of it because I would not want to work in a job to where I was paid on the emotions of what my boss or supervisor or somebody was going through on a day in and day out basis, right? Mm-hmm. So I think we have to take, to an extent, the emotion out of it, but it's also an emotionally charged time because we keep seeing this stuff that's happening and we're like, when is it going to stop? And I don't have an answer to that. And going back to something I said earlier, when you're talking to coaches and you're saying, talking about your white friends having these conversations, I think these conversations to me cross all color lines, because with it, there's a level of vulnerability you have. This might be one of the first times that as a leader, it's okay to say, I don't understand. I don't understand what's going on with this right now. But, if I'm talking to an individual student athlete, if I'm talking to somebody, on my staff, if I'm talking to somebody within the athletics department, maybe you have somebody in your family that's going through it or is going through it. Help me to better understand it. How can I better educate my team through this? What are some examples, historically that we've seen in regards to this? Because these aren't interesting times. These are horrifying times.
Most definitely.
We have to come to some type of, I'm trying to find the right word here. We have to, balance isn't the right, we have to come to a mutual level of respect for human life at the end of the day.
Most definitely,
a mutual
Coach.
respect of human life. Like, I do not walk out of here, out of my house, I don't carry guns. I respect people that, want to carry guns and do it. I don't walk out of my house with the intention of trying to do harm. I walk out of my house every day with the intention to try to bring some good into the world the best way I know how. Sometimes that's not for everybody. Sometimes people are just in a different place, but I think another important thing we have to do is meet people where they are and then try to help elevate from that, particular spot of where they are. Once again, we can lead people to, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Sometimes you can give all that you can, and then some people just don't want to accept it. And with that, you got to have the intelligence and the wherewithal to know when to move on to the next one. Because there's always, to me, going to be a next one out there. That's what I loved about coaching. There's always a next one that you can go out and have the opportunity to help change their life and impact their life and help to watch that light bulb come on.
Now, Coach, I know you've been out of the game for a few years here. Do you ever forget the urge to want to get back into coaching, or do you feel like that life has passed you by? Do you want to get back in ever?
The life has never really passed me by. I've stayed involved with basketball, whether it's doing some different things with the Hawks Naismith Classics or with Marcus Burnett and SUV TV. Was doing some stuff with the Georgia Hoop Circle, contributing there. I contribute to a variety of different things in regards to basketball. I love the game of basketball. It afforded me the opportunity to get a college education. It afforded me the opportunity to travel the world. It afforded me the opportunity to impact young men's lives. I met my wife through basketball. My two daughters were born when I was a basketball coach. So basketball's had a very positive impact on my life. So, I'm very strategic now in how I use basketball, because at the end of the day, always in different talks, did you use the basketball or did the basketball use you? And hopefully it's you use the game of basketball to take you to those next levels in life as you transition out of that sport to whatever you want to do next, whether it's broadcasting, whether it's coaching, whether it's politics, or whatever, field or platform you want to go or use.
Now, Coach, the really a lot of MVPs of being a coach is the coach's wives. So, let's talk about how your wife has supported you and your daughter supported you, because I know that's really the untold story of a coach, is how the wife holds down the home of the coach out recruiting, traveling, game planning. Let's talk about how important a coach's wife is to the coach being successful as well.
I always tell people that a coach's wife is and that's the right way to put it. They're the real MVP, because, we get to hide behind four walls when things aren't going well. And I can walk in my office at 6 a.m. and don't come out till 11 at night. I can control that. But, they're the ones that have to take the kids to school. They're the ones that have to go to the grocery store. or historically. I think we've evolved to a better point now to where as men we're more involved in regards to those duties, especially during COVID. But they hear more of the rumblings than you do. And then another part as coaches, we kind of tune that out for the most part, knowing that part of signing that contract is, there's going to be some Monday morning quarterbacks, some armchair quarterbacks that all have the answers, but they're also the same ones that are never willing to put themselves on that sideline for 40 minutes and see what it's really like to try to control an environment. So.
Yeah, because I tell you what, I can only imagine how coaches and wives have to deal with all the ups and downs, and you come home mad after a tough loss on the road or a trip, and just having the support of your kids and your wife to come to kind of make you forget about it for a few minutes about what just happened. Because having that support system in the home, man, is so important. Now, I just admire coaches and wives and what they deal with and how they keep the home stable and steady while the coach tries to make it right on the court for his program and his young men.
Oh, and not only are they basically, in a sense, kind of like the moms to the players that you bring into your program, but they also are the mother to your children. They carry on a lot of responsibilities that I think are not highlighted the way that they need to be highlighted when you start thinking about a coach, whether they're successful or not. It's just a lot of the a lot of the responsibilities that a wife takes on. They kind of take on your identity as well. So, as much as we talk about, hey, coach, are you okay? I don't think we talk enough about, are our wives okay? Are our children okay? Because, I have a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old. Those can be some very interesting times in young people's lives that where there's a lot of stuff thrown at them.
Yes, indeed.
When you have a parent that's a public figure, a lot more stuff can be thrown at you.
You got that right. And, Coach, what's so blessing about it, is that, hey, you're impacting young men's lives. So let's talk about that part of the equation of coaching, impacting a young man's life, helping him become a great husband, father, worker, whatever. After that ball gets to drop and using the basketball, use them for better. So let's talk about helping these young men that you've coached over the years grow into being, great men in a society as they are right now.
I think one of the main things that I enjoyed about coaching was the relationships. We always put a game plan together on how we were going to develop them on and off the court. But, the main goal was to make sure that they would be productive men in society in some way, shape, or form. I've always felt that one of the greatest compliments you could ever receive is when a player, lets you know, hey, you're getting married, get a wedding invitation, you're actually in a player or assistant coach's wedding, baby announcements, things of that nature. I think those things resonate because we all talk about the 2 to 3 to 4 years, but you really want it to be a 40 to 50 year relationship. And that to me is the main reason I feel like a majority of coaches coach, especially within my age group. I think another thing that we have to look at now is how are we preparing, our future generation of young people that are players, in regards to those next steps. How are we helping them? If we haven't learned anything from society, you have to understand the value of change, because if you don't change, you're going to become obsolete. And we're always evolving as a society, whether we want to admit it or not. So hopefully we're evolving in the positives and not, evolving in a negative way.
Now, Coach, this is one question that my listeners wanted me to ask you. I want your perspective on this. Coach, what's the difference between when you're working as an assistant coach vis-a-vis being a head coach. So if you can break down for my listeners, how the difference between when you're an assistant and then when you actually become a head coach, how responsibilities are divvied up based on in each role there.
I'll keep it very simple. As an assistant coach, I made suggestions. As a head coach, I made decisions.
Most
Those
definitely.
2 words, suggestions versus decisions. If it's a good decision, you look like a genius. If it's a bad decision, you're going to take the brunt of the hit. I always tell people the common denominator between, coaches, we have records, and whether we like it or not, some people say your record says who you are, as a coach and everything. And sometimes you don't understand all those circumstances that go into it. But the main thing is definitely the suggestions part versus the decisions. I think when you start to put your staff, I think it's the most important thing you can do as a head coach is have the right staff. And in having that right staff to be able to delegate the responsibilities to where as you're taking on other responsibilities within your program, whether it is speaking to the Kiwanis Club or the Rotary clubs and things of that nature, that everything on the practice floor, in the film room, study hall, class checks, that all those things are still being done and you don't miss a beat.
Oh, definitely. I'll tell you, I described it as like being a CEO of an organization. That's how I was described it to my listeners. But they want me to ask you, because you are a coach, so ask him that question. I said, I'll ask him for you guys, because I'll give you what you want. And you gave it to him simply as you could. Just the same as a co-host radio show. Suggest versus decisions. Like I'm gonna decide what I cover and I don't cover. I'm gonna take your suggestion, but I'm gonna do what I want to do. So I think you laid it out so perfectly right there, Coach. Cause I'm like, that's basically how it is.
Right. Well, here's the interesting part right now, JB. 10, 15 years ago, if you really paid attention to college athletics, a lot of your ADs were former coaches.
Mm-hmm.
When you start to look at college athletics now, especially at your Power 5, Power 7 levels, a lot of these ADs are development. They know how to raise money. They're not necessarily former coaches. They studied sports. They didn't necessarily play them. So that's where you're starting to get more the business mindset of the CEO terminology and things of that nature. And then a lot of that also has to go back to when we had conference realignment and the money started to get really big. Felt like you needed more business people as opposed to, once again, having those former coaches. And I think with that, you've had somewhat of a disconnect between your administrators that are more money people as opposed to understanding, what coaches go through. So, and I think that's something that as we continue to evolve, hopefully to get back to that side of having athletic directors and administrators that have experience with that respective sport, as opposed to just watching it and then trying to make those decisions without knowing what a coach really goes through those different seasons.
Got 2 more for you, Coach. And first one is about the money as well, Coach. A lot of non-conference schedules for the lower major schools are in jeopardy because of COVID. So and you coach at Kennesaw State, so you probably had to raise money, play guarantee games and money games. If those games are not available to fund athletic departments and fund the non-revenue sports, how are these schools going to survive sports-wise through COVID if there's no non-conference games for men's basketball, women's basketball, and also football? Because I fear for those universities who depend on those opportunities to make money for the university, and now with COVID, they might not have the opportunity to do that now. So how you feel about that? How it's going to shake out now with those schools having been in this precarious predicament right now, where the money might not be committed this year to fund everything?
I mean, it is it is a tumultuous time right now because you have decision makers or decisions that have to be made if those dollars are not able, to be, found through playing your guarantee games. And there's I think it's above 50-50 whether you'll see college football or not this year, which takes a huge hit in regards to your athletic budgets and things of that nature. And if you've really been paying attention, you're starting to see athletic departments talk about furloughs. I just saw that the other day with Clemson talking about furloughs, and that word right there, or layoffs, things of that nature. So it's very concerning right now, and hopefully we can correct this and understand that this is an unprecedented time, but there were things along these same lines that happened back in 2008 with the financial crisis. And once again, hopefully we can learn better moving forward in regards to that.
That's what I got for you, Coach. I wanted to ask you about Coach Peel, Randy Peel. He's the guy who brought us together. Yeah. He told me to reach out to you because you was a great guy. We both here in the Atlanta area, so he wanted to make a point that we connected. So tell us about Randy Peel, how you know him, what he's meant to you in your career, and stories you have about Coach Peel and what his love for basketball.
You know what? Coach Peel is one of the hardest working coaches I've ever been around. What I love about him is what you see is what you get. I grew up, you talk about your parents grew up in the civil rights era, mine did too. My dad was a crane operator and a custodian. So honest days work for honest days pay, and when you talk about Randy Peel, that's what you see. Loves giving back and pouring back into young people. Has stories for days. I love going back and talking to the people that have come before me to help pave the way and talk about how they had to adjust to how times have changed. I mean, you think about Randy, he started in this business when there was no rules to where you have rules. You used to be gone. I remember when I first got into coaching 17 years ago, we'd be gone literally the whole month of July recruiting, and so you pack up bags and, you have a Nike bag packed, loaded to the top. Like, all right, I got to try to figure out how to get 10 changes of clothes in here. And then, you either using the hotel wash machine or whatever. And it's amazing how it's changed, but the game's still the same because you got to figure out how to put that ball in the basket one more time than the opponent does.
Most definitely. But Coach Preston, this has been an honor to talk to you. It's been great. It's covered a lot of ground here today with you. We got to do this again real soon, and I hope to come up there and see you guys real soon. We have some lunch one day when it's safer out, I guess. We gonna have lunch somewhere around here one of these good days here, Coach.
And you know what? You come up to this area, I'll take you to a good spot. And then when I come down to Henry County, you take me to a good spot down there. We'll even it out.
Yes, indeed, Coach. Hey, Coach, thank you for your time. It was a pleasure, man.
JB, the honor was all mine, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
All right, Lewis Preston on the Bossman Show.
Trench work.
Hip-hop fans, I got a great album for you. The debut album from Family Grind ENT, True Speech and 313 Fresh. We're going to give you 2 discs, 33 songs of pure, genuine hip-hop. Album is available on iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, illstreetrex.com, and streaming live right now on Rhapsody, Beats Music, Spotify, Xbox Music, Slacker Radio, and SoundCloud. Check them out today. True Speech and 313 Fresh. Family Grind ENT. Believe in it. Get it.
A gorgeous tan from Suntan City gives you an inner glow that relights the fire when you run into your first crush.
Vicky, who was that?
An old boyfriend.
Lucky you just tanned at Suntan City.
Lucky he's single. We're doing lunch tomorrow.
Won't be single for long then.
During Tour of the City, try all 5 tans, including spray tan, for just $4.99. Restrictions may apply. Click to buy now.
When you're a teen, you finally get to make some of your own decisions. Who are you going to hang out with? What do you want to be? Are you going to glance at that text while driving? Remember, a split second is all it takes for something tragic to happen. Be in the zone. Turn off your phone. Visit childrenshospital.vanderbilt.org/BITZ to learn more about our teen driver safety program. Brought to you by the Monroe Carroll Jr. Children's Hospital at Vanderbilt, the Ford Motor Company Fund, and the Allstate Foundation.
It's maybe the night that my dreams might let me know. All the stars are closer. All the stars are closer.
Tell me what you gonna do to me. Confrontation ain't nothing new to me. You could bring a bullet, bring a sword, bring a morgue, but you can't bring the truth to me.
Alexa, play Kendrick Lamar and SZA.
Okay. Maybe the night that my dreams might let me know. All the stars are closer.
With Amazon Music, a voice is all you need. Get tens of millions of songs. Download the Amazon Music app today.
Yeah, it's your man JC, the host with the most, baby, and it goes down each and every Saturday night right here in the city of Memphis. That's right, y'all. It goes down at Clicks Sports Bar Memphis, baby. 3705 Malco Way, Memphis, Tennessee, 38125. Come out and join us, the Three Kings, each and every Saturday night for the livest karaoke in the city. Everybody gets in free till 10 p.m. Only $5 after. Great food. We got drink specials. We got all kind of games, man. We got the pool tables popping. Whatever you want, we got you, man. Come on out. Have a good time with us each and every Saturday night. That's Clicks Sports Bar, Memphis.